Welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the update for the best champions for Battlegrounds. The November update, of course, myself, the Illuminati. We've been doing this since before Battlegrounds even officially came into the game when it was just in the CCP beta there. There's a big theme for this one for me, and it's just the continuation of the game just growing, right? And more like the hard defenders, but that's also then giving a lot of space for new champion, or not new champions, for old champions to rise again. I've been calling Havoc the MCoC cockroach for years. I believe years, talking about how good he is and how good champions that are ranked even as an 8 on this tier list can be in Battlegrounds, particularly with how you set up your deck, your ban strategy, then your draft strategy. That's why some people are like, "Oh, I have this great result with the 8s." And that is true. It is real. And I really want you to keep that in mind as you're looking at this and as you're seeing it. And you're going to see literally we have had it as an 8. I'm not adjusting the ranking. No one in Illuminati suggested changing it this month, despite what we saw Havoc do in the Battle Realm Brawl, right? Okay. And then, of course, Cantona did phenomenal in that Battle Realm Brawl. Give him a big round of applause. Liam killing with the win. It was phenomenal. It was great. Hope you all really enjoyed it. All right. We're going to start off here with the defenders. I've enjoyed starting off with that. It's been a really great change. I'm glad it was suggested. We're going to cover the champions that are in hot pink, and just as a sign for me to talk about them. And real quick, what I want to talk about Kindred is, with the SP3 skip change, right, and the way that's working in Battlegrounds, champions that have like a bit of an execute or like Kindred here, I think is a massive attack increase with a special 3, might see themselves able to take 1, 2, 3 more matchups, that sort of thing. Remember, Kindred has the atrophy, so people were using Kindred dependent on the meta already. Sometimes even for like serpents, things like that. And then of course, Kindred is a phenomenal defender as well. The problem is, and this last Gladiator Circuit meta was pretty tough. Okay, it was pretty rough, and it was difficult to test out a lot of things. No one's really been able to test this out with Kindred per se. But I'm calling out. We had Kindred as a 10 already, and even Grasp brought it up this month. I mean, like, is Kindred a dual threat? And everyone's like, we're not sure. We haven't really been able to test that yet. We rank champions where they'd be the most highest ranked, and definitely Kindred is a great defender. I think I feel very comfortable with this, but I do want to call that out. If you see Kindred get moved to dual threat soon, that'll be why. You'll know that. Moving on to Rhino. Been talking about Rhino since that buff went live. This is going to be a defender that's going to have a shift. To me, they're not the same as Captain Britain, but they're of the Captain Britain vein, in my opinion, where it's like the specials aren't really hard to dex. There's nothing like terribly difficult about them. It's like what their kit does. This is like one of those kind of like really hard counter sort of defenders. With Rhino, this is why I'm not pairing him completely to Captain Britain. Is like you can use some attackers to do okay with him. It's just very, very difficult. Remember, he also is reducing the ability accuracy of bleed. So, like your Kois aren't gonna be able to handle him either very well. So, I think he's really here to kind of grow the amount of champions and the matchups and those sorts of things. If and when we see him as a 7-star, he's going to be problematic. I know myself and many other people were running 6-star rank 5 ascendeds in their deck and having tremendous success with him. So that's why he's got the 7-star emoji as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our attackers. All right, we will cover the Scorching and Super Hot tier of attackers. Now, the Super Hot, there's only one champion we're going to talk about, and those are the 6s. This is like the meta's got to be really specific, or I don't know. It's not that they can't ever be good. Some of these champions can be very, very good. It's just going to take a lot more work. They're not going to be able to handle as many matchups. Maybe the defenders they're good for aren't the big, bad, super meta ones that Kabam's put out recently to kind of push things forward and that sort of thing. And I think that's where Jane Foster is going to land. I really wanted to like Jane Foster. I do think there was something there, especially if you go to the SP3. I think you got like a massive crit increase, if I recall correctly. I did test her as a 3-star, and just it didn't feel worth putting out a video, to be honest. By the time I'd gotten to it, she has a nice stagger. I don't think she's a bad champion in any way, shape, or form, but this is a Battlegrounds tier list. I don't currently see her making a big push there. I did have her as a 7 because I just feel like there's something we're not aware of yet, to be honest, with her. But even MCoC Noob was like, hey, man, I really think, a 6. And Noob's been doing a lot of the testing, the new champions, buff champions. They've been phenomenal videos. So make sure you check those out as well. You probably don't need me to tell you that, but hey, I'm gonna say it anyways. So I agree with Noob, and I really appreciate him shouting that out. Moving on to the science class, we're gonna group Cage and Lizard, even though they're very different champions. Obviously, one is very new. I've been talking about the Book of Luke and how phenomenal that buff is. And this is part of what made me be like, I need to just kind of really talk about 8s. 8s are phenomenal. I don't know if you could make a full deck of eights and like make your way up to like Celestial 4, but you could make a deck full of eights and have a phenomenal time if you really get your draft and your ban strategies well. And if your eights are tailored to the meta, meaning the nodes that are specific to that season. Both Luke and Lizard fit that, right? Lizard, I'm a little unsure. I actually had him as a 7. William, phenomenal batter, like seriously, constantly in C5, sometimes up in C4, depending on how much time he's got. Takes his studies very seriously. I was like, hey, dude, I think you're a little low on Lizard. I do recall and I do like that Lizard has some big burst damage. If you play him well, it can come off the SB2. And the SB3, again, kind of looks like a bit of an execute almost for Battleground style health pools. And with the skip time button or the skip SB3 feature button, that might play him in. Luke Cage, if you're still looking for those concussions or ability power rate or stuff like that, he's a phenomenal, phenomenal champion, especially Awaken. You can play him more aggressively in Battlegrounds. So this isn't really like putting down Luke. This is just the game has grown. And the other last thing I'll say about Luke Cage and Lizard in particular is we haven't really seen a new Mystic Defender come out. I know Enchantress is there, and I just talked about Kindred. So, like, I'm not necessarily asking for a new one, but we all know one's going to be coming. And if they're particularly good for it, you could see them rise. Remember, Battlegrounds, your competitive PvP modes is where you're going to see the most fluidity in the rankings. That's why there's changes like every single month, is because the various metas, like what Kabam's been doing, not just in one meta, but a variety of them. And then also they put out one new attacker, one new defender, as we're about to see a new 7-star champion coming to the game. It can significantly shift the overall meta of the mode. Speaking of which, literally moving on to Valkyrie, I don't think Valkyrie is going to make a massive splash and make certain defenders stronger and certain defenders weaker on the Battleground series, but we need to see it. It's been a long time since Valkyrie was able to hang in, right? She was a 6-star. One of her biggest things is you can just hit into the block and do significant, significant damage. And remember, they switched it so she has a full-on grit now. So handling unstoppables. Hello, Rhino. We got to see how that works out and how that plays out. We don't have 7-star Rhino yet. We don't have 7-star Valkyrie yet, but we know Valkyrie would be coming in the banquet box, right? That Kabam is putting forth. So this is our prognostication. That's why she's got the dice and the 7-star emoji. The 6-star was very, very good. We're going to have to see where she lands in the actual overall BG's meta to feel pretty good about it. But 8 felt right. Really hard to see her dropping down below a 7. Probably, I think 8. There's a reason I think 8. I put it there. So obviously I think it. Now moving on to the last one here, we're going to mention in the Cosmic class is Venom. This is very similar to Luke Cage. These are phenomenal champions. If you could put, I've put together full showcases of these champions in Battlegrounds. It's very doable in high tier Battlegrounds. They can be great, but this is what I'm talking about. As the game continues to grow, there's just going to be more and more times where you find a match where you're like, I just don't have a counter. I guess I'll sit here and die. But also there will be situations where if you set up your deck in your draft, RNG goes your way, you're going to have great success with champions like Luke Cage, Venom, because they are phenomenal, phenomenal champions. Remember, Venom needs to make things bleed. He's very much an outlier, unique in the Cosmic class. And you know what? I realized I forgot to update it because was so new in this. I've actually been testing my Venom the Duck, and I'm gonna put him at 6 right now. But I have to say, the more I play him, the more I like him, and the more I'm seeing access to quicker damage. Steel 22 has been talking about a lot of different ways and utilizing the heavy going into the special. I've had a lot of work this week, so I wasn't able to get stuff done towards the end of the week as far as YouTube's concerned. I still might put out a video on Venom the Duck, even at rank 2 with that relic. Like, I just absolutely love so much about it. He just doesn't have a lot of the utility that is being asked for from these big bad new defenders. And when you're talking about PvP mode like Battlegrounds, that's often what you're looking for. Moving on to the tier above all attackers, these are going to, the most versatile, the most power, right? It's not just about being a nuke, right? If it was, Scream would be up here. She's great, don't get me wrong. She's got versatility, don't get me wrong. But these champions are going to have it more, or the big bad defenders are asking for it more, basically, all right? And that's why we've got Spider-Man, Pavitr, Pavitr right there at 9. Honestly, I wanted to put him at 10. I just did. I'm not in the CCP anymore, so I can't 7-star test the new champions. I have watched Grass's videos. He looks great. Grass is my go-to. Grass and MCoC Noob. Noob's doing them now too. They're phenomenal new champion videos telling you where they're going to be good, where they think they're going to be good, how they're going to fit in the meta. Allison Edits has been putting out videos of Spider-Man, Pavitr, Pavitr, where the big bad defenders, they just never even throw a special. Like it's It is I really think Spider-Man's probably a 10, but we wanna start off conservatively here. We always do. You just never know until they've had multiple metas to really see how things go through. But this guy, he looks outrageous. Like, I don't know how else to put it. And as William pointed out, he's like, he actually even has a little bit of defensive threat too, with the chance to evade. You might need to avoid those webs. So there's a chance he ends up moving to dual threats as well. But I think whether we have him at 9 or 10, it's very clear and obvious. This champion's going to be making a mark in Battlegrounds for probably a very, very, very long time. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the dual threats. Moving on to the dual threat champions, we'll start in the Scorching tier. And now, again, these are the eights. You've heard me talk about eights a lot in this one, so I'm not going to belabor that point and go over it again. Cassandra Nova. And yes, for those of you who watched a lot of the tier list, you saw the general one. That was a mistake. That was a complete mistake on my part. She's obviously better than we have her rated. Grass has recently done it was a BG showcase of Cassandra Nova. Really, just so many the way she handles her stun and the passive stun, even to champions like Atuma, and what she does there. I don't want to spoil this video. You should watch it. It's really eye popping. It's really cool. It's very exciting. And of course, there's just the pure shutdown of Nick Fury. Skill does have a lot of good defenders that you do frequently see. She has some defensive tricks of her own. So I do think 8 is good. And then when you see the general tier list, which will be coming out in a week, she'll be getting promoted to where she should be. That's just it was just an error on my part. Fully willing to say, like, I made a mistake. And then on the next one's Weapon X. This was a demotion. William's the one who suggested it. I have to fully agree with him. You know me, I love my Weapon X. I love Weapon X. I love playing him. I hope to take him to rank 4 soon. I'm just not getting as many rank 4s these days as I was. They're not coming in as fast uh, as they used to be, I think, for obvious reasons. And so I want to take him up, but I will admit, and it's interesting because this is like our third bleeder, I think, that's kind of seen this happen, where there's just not as many spaces. Or, I used to use Weapon X all the time for Bullseye, but the mutant class has grown so much that I'm not finding myself wanting to draft Weapon X immediately every time in case my opponent gets a Bullseye. And I think that's a lot of that's due to just how good the mutant class is, and that's part of what we're reflecting here in a tier list. He's still great, don't get me wrong, but people aren't struggling with him on defense as much as they used to be. If they make a mistake, he still kills them. But again, an 8 is phenomenal. Like, that's a very common theme of this. That's why I started off with it. And then coming on with another champion that we know is going to be coming as a 7-star in December, very similar to Valkyrie, where it's like when they started to fall off the Battlegrounds meta, it felt like a lot of it was due to the shift from 6 stars to 7 stars. But similar to Valkyrie, the game progressed, right? It was power crept or evolved, whatever term you want to use, to where mutant champions aren't having as much prowess, not as much healing, or if you shock them, you will die. And so Nimrod's not, I'm confident Nimrod's not going to come back in and be a 10. I would love to regret that. I would love to be wrong because I love playing Nimrod. One of my first like champions, I really felt like I understood, and I was like, "Hey guys, he's phenomenal." I just don't think that's going to happen. That being said, how many times in this video you're going to say an 8 is great? He's going to be a great dual threat. You get the signature ability going. It increases, if I remember correctly, like the potency is one of those like bizarre, crazy, super powerful percentile increases. I think he's even going to be a bit of a stall. Remember, he's like immune. He's got the power drain. He goes unstoppable. This is a big tanky boy. He's going to make a dent in Battlegrounds. It's just going to be, again, how do you draft? How do you set that up? How do you do your bans? And let's go and look at the tier above all. In attackers, we've got, or in dual threats, I'm sorry, we've got 2 new champions, or 2 promotions actually. One is Absorbing Man, coming as a 7-star. This is the biggest one, right? We had Nimrod at an 8, we had Valkyrie as an 8. I put Absorbing Man as a 9 because he is the newest. Actually, as I think it through, he is actually the newest, and he also feels very different in his class. Remember, like all those immunities, all those different power damage sources as well. Tough defender with the healing and those sorts of things. His heavy and his specials for me often feel like they come out of nowhere. Like even just his animations, the spacing on his heavy, it is very easy to make a quick mistake. And then he's done massive, massive damage to you. He even has healing. So it help you bring back a little bit of the chip that you may have lost health over the course of the fight. SP3 does sets you up to do significant damages. Like fights almost just in afterwards. He's a crazy champion, man, and he's coming. So I think we're okay with him being a 9 and helping you out through that. We'll see though. Potentially he falls to an 8 or moves up to a 10. We'll just have to see what Kabam puts out and into the game. And then other than Lumitrix, I think this has been happening for a while now as Kabam put up more answers to Nick Fury, or champions who can do a significant amount of damage. They don't necessarily like lose their ramp, or they didn't only do their damage through debuffs when he purifies and was into a second life, or champions like Okoye who do so much damage so quick that they are able to take down his second life. So he's just moved down to a 9. But the real thing is that Lumitrix feels like the skilled attacker or the skilled champion where you can draft him. You're usually going to have a use for him. He's going to be good on defense unless they have an answer who counters evade or miss. On attack, right? The ability to just go, I don't remember if he calls it invisible, but he creates the miss, get his openings. I've recently taken mine to rank 4. I'm playing him pretty well, but I still have a lot ways to go to play him at a very high skill. And even then, I'm getting good results in war, but this is Battlegrounds, good results in Battlegrounds, the guaranteed crits, big damage even without the guaranteed crits, to be honest. Can handle photon, just goes about it in a unique way. And so I think he's the one champion, and this was actually at the recommendation of Grass, and I really do agree with it. I think this is the one skill champion. Boom him up to 10. As I've said though, PvP modes, Battlegrounds, and War are where you're going to see the most fluidity based on what does Kabam put into the game recently, what defenders, what attackers, and those sorts of things. But for right now, he feels like a great 10. All right. And that's it for this month. As usual, let me know what we think we got right. Let me know what we think we got wrong. Make sure you go support that Illuminati. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.